District, with Pat Walker, who is a commissioner with the Waxahachie River District, Dave Stewart, who's the mayor of Lantana. Let's see. Okay. And also Bob Weissman, our county administrator. Bob here. Yes. Okay. He's an engineer too. So, okay. Next, we're going to quickly, we're going to skip over the issues, presentations, and do those a little bit later. And we're going to go ahead and get started on some questions. The way that we do this, for those of you all that are new to the breakfast, is we gave a few advanced questions to the legislators on issues that we know are important to our different organizations. And we're going to start out with a few of those questions, and then we will take questions from the floor. There's two microphones, one here, and if you have a question when we get to that point, if you could make your way to the microphone, and we'll take the questions on an alternating fashion. So, with that, I am going to kick off with a couple of questions. First one is deals with economic growth. It appears that Florida is finally starting to rebound from the recession. And what we'd like to know is what the legislature thinks it will do this session to help the state's economy grow and strengthen. And in particular, are there any legislative efforts envisioned that would help small businesses? And you want to start, Bobby? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Dave Kerner, House Rep District 87. I want to thank this organization for putting this together. This is probably one of the highest, if not the highest, turnout that we've experienced for a legislative forum. I need to clear the air. Last year I came, I did not have a tie on. And I went to Tallahassee, I thought I did a good job, and I came back today, and the only thing I heard about was that I had a tie on this year. And I need to point out that Mark Pafford does not have a tie, so it's very serious consequences for this gentleman.
Thank you. I am State Representative Powell Jr. I represent House District 88, which starts in Lake Park. Covers Lake Park, Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth, Lantana Point, and Delray. Dave made me forget what I was going to say. It's good to be here as a planner. I am an AICP certified planner, and I currently work for Urban Design Kildare Studios. I'm really excited about a lot of the issues that we're working on this year. Getting ready to go to Tallahassee today as preparation for a session.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm Pat Rooney, State House District 85. I'm the only Republican up here. I have to wear a tie. I represent basically the area from Lion Country Spa north and west to the Juno Beach Pier. So it's a pretty wide district, including the cities of West Palm Beach, North Palm Beach Gardens, and pretty much all of the acreage. Really looking forward to the discussion. I think this is my third year in front of the group, so it should be a good time. Thank you.
Good morning, Jeff Clemens. The State Senate District 27 runs from approximately North Lake Boulevard south to Point Beach Boulevard, and from the ocean to the Turnpike, with a few exceptions. I just want to mention that one of the reasons that Mark Pafford doesn't have a tie on this morning is that he's lost 40 pounds and none of his ties fit him anymore. And I'll say good morning, Jeff Clemens, too. Just kind of weird. I guess he's out there. My name is Mark Pafford. I've been doing this for 6 years. The real reason I'm not wearing a tie is last year I said if you start this at 7 a.m. again, I'm not coming. But you started at 7 a.m. It is Friday, so this is the way I showed up. It's Friday attire. It's always good to be here. You guys always seem to ask really a great number of questions and get into a lot of details many groups don't. So thank you, and now we get started, yes.
So the question was about economic growth and what we're going to do. You know, I mean, I guess this is a matter of opinion in how we're going to deal with the issues. You know, we've given a lot of money away, frankly, to corporations over the last few years. Some of it's been successful, it's created jobs, and some of it's not. We're going through a kind of restructuring right now at DEO and how we handle Enterprise Florida and those kinds of issues to try to figure out what's been working and what has not been working, which incentives have been working and which incentives have not been working. I sit on Finance and Tax in the Senate, and there's been I think an actually bipartisan approach to how we're looking at which tax incentives have been working and which haven't. And we're trying to do it using all the data that we can gather. And some of the results have been surprising. Those of you who are familiar with enterprise zones and how those have worked, the data that had been gathered showed those to be, at least from the state's perspective, very ineffective. Now, what I'm trying to show some of my colleagues is that from a local perspective, that's a little bit different, because we can't just look at things about whether they benefit the state or whether they don't benefit the state. The local municipalities have very often benefited from enterprise zones. So we're taking a really from the bottom approach to looking at many of these different tax incentives and trying to figure out which ones of them work and which ones of them have not been working, which I think is something that's long overdue. In terms of what we're doing to help small businesses, we're still trying to get this one-stop portal up and running smoothly, which is frustrating to many of us. We passed a bill that will allow you, hopefully, once we don't know how difficult it is to get a government website up and working. And I'm not just talking about Obamacare. Here in the state, we've had a terrible problem with our unemployment website. The same thing. So I think too often in government we give short shrift how difficult these large websites with thousands or hundreds of thousands of people coming to them are going to be to operate. And the same thing has happened with this one-stop portal that we created a few years ago, 2 sessions ago actually, to try to make it so that businesses only have one place to go to get their permits at the state level. And they can go to that one place, and then the permits for all the different agencies will be doled out through that portal. It's still not up and running properly, and that's something that hopefully we'll get going.
Okay, did anyone else want to take a stab at that question?
I would say that also, to piggyback off what Senator Clemens said, I've also filed a bill with Senator Abruzzo just to extend the deadline for enterprise zones. They're set to expire in 2015. So what we've done is we just on the line where we strike the language in everybody, and we allow those to be, the deadline to be extended until 2019. As Senator Clemens has said, the evidence from the state has shown that they haven't been successful on the state level, but what we're hearing from a lot of our local municipalities is that those enterprise zones have helped create opportunities for people within our districts. So I'm hoping that we'll be successful in pushing that this year. I know last time we were up in committee, we had a hearing where it wasn't so accommodating to the idea of enterprise zones. I know Senator Clemens and also Representative Rooney have also been working on adjusting the language and trying to come up with some language that would be more suitable and more applicable on a statewide level.
For me, the most important part of this question is, what is the legislature going to do for small business? We consistently see the legislature pass tax breaks for what amounts to the larger corporations in the state. Last year was a manufacturing tax cut. I suspect that it's large corporations that benefit from this the most. From my personal perspective, and this is my opinion only, the largest small business issue that we faced last year and that we will face this year is the Medicaid expansion. Regardless of what tax breaks we give or what hiring incentives we give, it will never amount to the $51 billion that will go primarily to small business employees. And that's a fact. There's a gap between the impoverished and those that make too much to receive the Affordable Care Act subsidy. In that hole is where the Medicaid expansion would fit. And for those corporations that are larger than 50 people, they're going to be mandated by the Affordable Care Act to provide health insurance. But again, for that middle gap, that $51 billion would truly go to the employees of small business. And that's a big number that we're turning away. I hope the legislature takes it up again this year. I'm not terribly hopeful, but we'll see.
And yeah, just to add one note, this year, again, I filed the Urban Infill and Redevelopment Grant Program. Many of you may have participated in that program over a decade ago, the first year and only year that it was actually funded. The language for that program in statute was removed by a colleague from Dade County about 3 years ago. It didn't make sense at that time if we're really looking at jobs and reinvigorating the economy and putting dollars back into small business and construction companies and the trades. So I've offered that language again. Whether or not there's any appetite for that, whether or not they're going to attach a dollar figure, I don't know, but it would be good to have those type of programs in statute to allow and really assist that type of thinking. It's certainly great for the local economy, but there's so many blighted areas throughout this state and major areas like Palm Beach County that could benefit from that program. So if you want more information, you want something to get behind, let me know, because otherwise it's not going to pass.
I'll just talk from a broader perspective. You know, when I got into the legislature almost 4 years ago, we were in a pretty big budget deficit situation. It was close to $4 billion. 3 years ago, it was almost $2 billion. Last year, we had a little bit of money, and this year it looks like we're going to have a little bit more, close to $1 billion. You know, politicians love to take credit for when things start going good, like they were completely responsible for all that, or if things are not going good, they like to, you know, blame other people for it. But I do think some of the policies that have been enacted over those 4 years have helped us. One of the big things in my mind is we've been able to put money aside, close to $3 billion towards debt reduction over these last 4 years, and that's helped our credit rating in the state to get to a level where, in terms of our interest payments that we're paying on money that is loaned to us, we're in great shape. We're one of the only AAA rated states in the country. I think the last I heard, we were one of 9 states that had that rating, and that was better than the federal government. So I think some of those broader policies are working to help attract businesses here. We are a relatively low income or low tax state. We have great natural resources here. It's a beautiful state, and with the exception of hurricane season, you can't beat the weather here generally year-round. So it's a matter of providing an environment. Government, I think we all agree, does not create jobs. It provides an environment for job growth. And with some of those macro decisions being made, I think we made ourselves into a state that's very attractive for businesses to come here and to want to stay here. We still have work to do. We still lose, I think, too many of our brightest students to other states, but hopefully with the creation like we have just down the road here of Scripps and Max Planck, we're diversifying our economy to the point where we're not solely reliable on our tourism, construction, agriculture, to the point where we have other things here where some of our best students will want to stay.
I'm going to jump to a question on ethics in government. Once again, the Florida legislature is considering ethics legislation. Senator Clemens is sponsoring Senate Bill 606, and among other issues, it would delete a requirement that each reporting individual or procurement employee file a quarterly statement disclosing certain gifts. Appears to be supported by the Florida League of Cities, but opposed by some members of the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission. So I guess the first part of this question would be directed to Senator Clemens.
Good.
In terms of, I wanted to make sure you got a chance to answer this question before you had to leave. You know, in terms of what the intent of the bill is and what do you think is going to be controversial about the bill. And then we'll ask the other legislators if they could comment on the bill. And also if anyone thinks there'll be any other ethically oriented bills this session.
Do you ever do something and wish you hadn't done something? So, the League of Cities came to me with an ethics bill, and they said they want to have additional training for municipal officials and some tweaks to the gift law and some things like that. And so I agreed to work with them and file the bill with the intent of changing the gift law, and I'll go into a little more detail about that, to to make it less onerous in one particular instance. And as soon as the bill was released, I'm accused of trying to gut the state's gift laws and go back to a time where anybody can do whatever they want to in terms of giving gifts to public employees. Look, let me tell you what the bill does and what I hope it will do if it moves forward. The bill talks about the gift reporting requirement that has to do with folks that aren't lobbyists. It doesn't do anything with the gifts that come from lobbyists. Those are just banned. We can't accept gifts from lobbyists. Can't accept a cup of coffee from lobbyists. Everybody that ate up here today or drank had to pay for it. So we can't accept that. But there are requirements in law that say if I have a girlfriend who gives me a Christmas gift that's over $100, I have to actually report that. Now, my wife doesn't like me getting gifts from my girlfriend. So I try not to let her know when it happens, but I've got to report it now. And that's difficult. So, you know, there have been people who have run into this situation. One would be our tax collector, Ann Gannon. She had to report gifts that she received from her boyfriend for Christmas. And so there are some absurdities that we get caught up in trying to make sure that we're acting ethically. And what my bill was intended to do was to try to fix that situation. Admittedly, you know, the language needs a lot of cleaning up, and I'm not sure that the bill is going to move forward this year. So it's more of a bill for discussion purposes than anything else, to try to figure out if there are solutions to these problems. And my main concern is, being a former mayor, I don't want to chase people away from public service. I don't want to make it so onerous that they don't want to get in because every aspect of their life becomes open to the public. I think it's important for our public servants to be open. We file financial disclosure forms. I'm one of the few members of the Ethics and Elections Committee in the Senate who believes that we should allow our state ethics commission to initiate investigations. Right now they can only have an investigation if someone makes a complaint. So I do believe in strengthening our ethics laws. I filed a bill last year that would make it difficult for anybody to vote on a bill in the legislature that endures not only to their own benefit, but to the benefit of their employer and relatives. That didn't go anywhere. So I do believe in strengthening our ethics laws. This particular bill probably does have some work to do, and we've got to change the language. I'm already working with the State Ethics Commission that has an issue or two with the bill, and we've made some changes. I'm not sure the bill is going to move through the process this year. This seems like one that could take a couple of years to try to iron out some of the wrinkles and the problems with it. Yeah, just to follow up, and if you don't know Jeff, I know Jeff. He's my senator, actually. And as with Representative Rooney, I think everybody here, you know, we all have a responsibility when we file legislation to kind of steward that bill through the process. And every piece of legislation that's passed is, not every, but most of the times, they're all amended in certain ways. And I think Jeff's intent here is certainly not to deviate from a lot of the ethics requirements, but actually improve the situation. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I'll just quickly add on to that. You know, government is generally reactive, it's not proactive. So when something happens, you know, usually there's a massive reaction to it rather than more deliberative thought as to, all right, what is the real problem and how does it need to be fixed? I don't view, and this is my personal view, I don't view if I go to lunch with somebody and they want to pick up the lunch that I'm now going to vote for whatever they want. And I hope they understand that, you know, that's not how it's going to work. But I understand generally, you know, there have been problems with politicians, you know, being influenced by certain things. So I think there's a medium here. There's got to be a happy medium where we can have some governance over what we are allowed to take or get, and what we aren't. And I'm all for that. But I actually think this hurt businesses. I think it hurts, you know, again, people just aren't able to take you to lunch. They're not, you know, you're not allowed to do anything. As Jeff said, if you're up here drinking a cup of coffee, you got to pay for it. And not that I'm against that or anything like that, but there has to be, again, a happy medium where we can figure out exactly, you know, what needs to be reported and what is kind of inconsequential in terms of our decision making and what we're going to be able to do.
And just a quick follow-up. Your company can write my political committee a $10,000 check, and we can go out and buy 5,000 cups of coffee with that. That's not a problem, but you can't buy me a cup of coffee. And if you want, I'll get you my phone number. We can talk about those $10,000 checks after this.
Just to piggyback off of everything that was said, I just want to clear one thing up. My breakfast, even though I am a member of the Joint Professional Society, APA, AICP, I did pay for my breakfast because I am a legislator, so I want to clear that up. But also, just recognizing the fact, and I looked at Senator Clemens' bill, and I pulled it, and at a quick glance, I'm kind of glad you made your comments, because in our legislature, over the last year, where we had, you can't hear me? I'm sorry, thank you. Can everyone hear me? President Gates and Speaker Weatherford, it's been their goal to make sure this is the most transparent legislature, to make sure everyone's doing things ethically. And last year we had a lot of ethics legislation filed. So I wasn't sure I would support the bill as it is, but I'm glad Senator Clemens said what he said, because as bills are amended through the process, I think this would probably be something that would be workable. Thank you.
Okay. Another question about the governor's priorities. This is his last regular legislative session for his first term. What legislative policy initiatives do you see coming from the governor's office that will affect the budget, environmental restoration, water law, and land use planning?
So I guess I'll jump in. Look, it's Governor Scott. This is the same guy who wanted to basically deregulate a lot of the folks that are in your industry. You know, you can't forget where he's come and where he's going. It's an election year. There are Democrats, there are Republicans running, and everything that goes on in Tallahassee is going to be connected to the election. I mean, that's just how this process works, whether you like it or not. That's the truth. The folks that are in charge would love to see a smooth sailing legislative session that provides everybody something. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, in my opinion, if you're an elder sitting on a wait list, or somebody with a disability on a wait list, or you are dealing with an issue with a spring up north, you know, that you'd like to see the water become a little better. I know one of the things you're talking about also, you know, is an extra $1 billion more or less. There are big dollars out there. The question is, are you going to be persuaded by a short-time campaign solution during the legislative process, which should be open to everybody, or are you going to remember what the general direction of the administration has been? And in my opinion, it hasn't necessarily been your friend all the time. So, you know, you have to look past a lot of the issues that are going to occur this year in terms of what the administration wants. My feeling is, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't feel the legislature always does a great job, the governor's budget is a governor's budget. It means nothing to the legislature. At the end of the day, the legislature has the ability to write its own budget and put the governor in a position of either supporting it or vetoing line by line. And so each of you as individuals, and of course as a member of a larger group, you're going to have to make decisions based on what you'd like to see the next 4 years look like if in fact the governor wins. I can't answer that for you. I certainly know how I'm voting. But this is all politics. There's no surprises. And that's why, you know, last year when we did reform things, like campaign finance reform, we used a word reform which would trigger people to think maybe we made something better. Okay, you're now allowed to give us $1,000 per cycle versus $500. You know, we got rid of CCEs. What an asinine thing, because we allowed political committees to basically do what the CCEs were doing. I mean, it's a joke, frankly. And if you're not smart enough to pick that up, then we can come back and talk about the same old things that I've been talking about for 5 years with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We know that the governor released his proposed budget yesterday, and I know last week he came out with some ideas on some environmental funding when things were happening with the Indian River Lagoon up north, I attended a couple of the hearings just to find out what was going to be done. And Senator Negron and the governor had allowed to put some policies in place to kind of make sure our environment was safe. I know that $50 million has been requested for sewage treatment, $25 million for beach restoration, $125 million for petroleum cleanups, and also I think there was a certain amount of money that was requested for the Florida Forever program. Now, like Representative Pafford said, the budget that the governor proposes is the governor's budget, and he can't go and line item veto things as he sees fit, which I've experienced. But I would suggest that as this is an election year, there's going to be an opportunity to get some things done on the environment that we probably didn't get done over the last year or so. Thank you.
I'll just weigh in. You know, I was on the governing board of the Water Management District for 3 years and started to get a sense as to, you know, what the issues are with our environment, specifically with Everglades restoration and some of the issues that Representative Powell talked about with the Indian River Lagoon. You know, when the governor first came in, he did a lot, in my opinion, a lot of damage against the water management districts. And I think he just wasn't informed about really what the role that they play. I think he viewed it as kind of a big bureaucratic, you know, mess. And being on that board, I was never more impressed with the quality of people that were involved there and the management of our water resources and trying to do things to get us in the right position so that we have sustainable water for the next generations, because water is a finite resource, and it's, aside from air, it's the most important thing that we have. I will say that I think the governor is coming around to view the importance of not only the water management districts, but also the role that they play. And I'm happy to see that he's devoted a fair amount of money to these projects. The other good news that I think is you have a guy like Senator Joe Negron, who has really taken the forefront in looking at the issues from the Indian River Lagoon perspective. And you know, I'm very confident that Joe will be able to get a lot of things done with that. You know, unfortunately, with the releases from Lake Okeechobee, until we get more storage or some kind of filtration system when the water comes out there, every time we have big water events, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to have these releases. That's really the only way that we can get the water out of Lake Okeechobee without risking a break in the dam and potentially millions of or hundreds of thousands of lives at risk. So I know, you know, we have priorities with the C43, C44 reservoirs. They will help. Some of this water farming that is going on right now will help, but we still need more money and more people to work on these things and get them done.